In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this color wheel effect in Photoshop. So you should already have your final 12 images, one from each color on the wheel. They should already be exported on your computer, ready to go. All right, so let's start by opening up the color wheel template. This is a Photoshop file that should be in Teams, so make sure that you download it and open it up here in Photoshop. You'll notice if you look at the layers panel that there is a color wheel layer as well as a neutral wheel layer if you wanted to do an extra credit version of neutrals. All right, but we're going to be working on the color wheel layer, so make sure that way that layer is visible and selected. All right, our first step is to open up one of our colors, and I'm going to be starting with yellow today. So File, Open, and here on my computer is where all my images are, and here is my yellow image. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. All right, you'll notice here that it opened up in a separate tab. And what we want to do before we can do anything else is we need to unlock the layer. So make sure that the layers panel is visible and click on the little lock symbol to unlock it. We now want to make a selection of the layer. To make a selection of the layer, you want to hold down Control on your keyboard, CTRL, and then click on the image icon that's on that layer. This is your image icon, which is like a little mini picture. I'm going to click on that, and then you'll notice we now have an active selection around our picture. We now want to copy this selection. We can go up to Edit and then to Copy, or you can do Control-C on your keyboard. Let's go back into the color wheel template. And on the color wheel template, we want to select the area of the wheel that is the same color as our image, which in this case is yellow. In order to do that the quickest and easiest, we're going to be using the Magic Wand tool. Remember, the Magic Wand tool selects an area based on its color. So if I just click in that yellow area, I now have a really great selection of that area. All right, now we're going to paste it in, but this paste is a little bit different than normal. It is called a special paste. So we're going to go up to Edit, skip Paste. You're actually going to go down to Paste Special, and you'll notice you have a couple options here, and we want to choose the one that says Paste Into. Because really what we want to do is paste that photo right into that area that we've selected. And you'll see that it's done that there. But this is not the best part of the image. I want the part of the image that is the most yellow, but also where there's some focus too. Notice that I'm in an area of the photo where it's out of focus. I'm going to grab the Move tool on my toolbar and then click on that image, and I can start to move it around. Around until I can see the sharp parts, but also the most yellow. So there we go, starting to get there. All right, now I'm going to just kind of adjust as needed. I really want to fill this area with the color as much as I can and really make a nice yellow space. And I think that does it pretty well, but I want this to be a little bit larger and kind of more. So I'm going to zoom out so you can see what I'm doing, Control minus, zoom out. And I'm going to be using Free Transform on this image. Control-T will take you to Free Transform, and this will allow us, by clicking and dragging the corners, to enlarge the photo or to shrink the photo. Whichever one that you need to do, go for it. I'm going to enlarge it and then start to move it around again. All right, just keep in mind that if you enlarge stuff too much, you can make the quality of that image go down. So just pay attention as you are working. All right, I think that looks great. Now, the only thing I don't want to do in Free Transform is I don't want to start to rotate the image or flip it or anything like that, because I don't want the direction to change. I don't want the B to be upside down or sideways. So I'm just going to undo that and go ahead and confirm my transformation, and I'll zoom back in with Control+. All right, essentially that is the step. I'm going to do it one more time, and then you can do the rest on your own. You can always rewatch this part of the video. So let's do it one more, this time with yellow-green, or sorry, yellow-orange. So let's go to File, Open. So same exact steps. I'm just going to choose a different photo this time. We're going to unlock the layer, select the image, hold down Control, click the image icon. We're going to do Control-C this time to copy, or you can do Edit and Copy. Let's go back to the color wheel template. And this time we need to make sure, really important, that you select the color wheel layer in the layers panel. That way you can go to the magic wand tool and select that yellow orange area. Now we can go to edit, paste special, and do the paste into, or you can hold down Alt Shift Control V, which will essentially do the same thing. All right, back to my move tool, and I'm going to move my image around. Again, I want the color to fill that area best, and I think I need to enlarge it a little bit. So I'm going to do Control T, grab the corner to make that picture a little bit bigger, and then move it around. Great, I like it. I'm going to go ahead and set that transformation and go ahead and repeat those steps until you get something that looks like this. All right. Now remember that here is our goal. So our next steps is that we are basically going to create a blurred background. And then we're going to have this circle area where the images are still nice and sharp, and we're going to add a little bit of a shadow to make it stand out. All right, so let's go ahead and start that. So pay close attention to your layers panel. We want to start by selecting some of these layers. We actually want to select all 12 of the layers, each image that we use for the color wheel. I'm going to hold down Shift and just click on each of those layers to select them. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to group these together. Photoshop calls it a group, but essentially we're putting these images in a folder together. So if I right click on them while they are selected, we can choose Group from Layers. A box will prompt you to name this group, and we're going to name this group Original. Go ahead and press OK. You'll notice now that you see a folder, which is the group, and if you open that folder, those 12 images are now in the folder. All right, we're now going to duplicate this group called Original. So let's go ahead and right click on it and choose to duplicate the group. This time we're going to call the group Blur. Go ahead and press OK. All right, now why are we doing this? One is for organization, and one is just to have backups in case something goes wrong. So this original original group are basically now our extra photos. If anything wrong happens in the next few steps, you still have your backup original photos there. So let's go ahead and have the blur group selected. What we're going to do to this group is we're actually going to merge these images together into one image. So by having that layer selected, go ahead and right click on it and choose Merge Group. You'll notice that it changes it from a group to now one singular layer. All right, now we actually need two of these layers. We're going to right click on this blur layer and we're going to duplicate it. This time we're going to call it Sharp. So notice the layers that we have now. We still have the original group, which has all the separate images just in case we need them later. We now have a blur and a sharp layer, which right now are exactly the same photos. All right. So we're gonna make the sharp layer invisible for now. Now you're not gonna see this change on the screen, but just make sure that the eyeball has disappeared from the layers panel and go ahead and select the blur layer. We named it blur because we are going to blur it. So go up to filter at the top, choose blur, and then Gaussian blur. All right, now you can see on the screen what's happening here is blurring the image, and as you move the slider around, it's going to blur it less or more. Now we don't want to blur it so much to where you can't see the pictures anymore. So somewhere in between the numbers 15 and 30 will work great. I'm going to put in 20 and press OK. So it has a nice blur to it, but we can still see each of the individual images and color. Now we're also actually going to darken this area. Notice our example is a darker in the background than it is in the circle. So make sure that the blur layer is still selected, and we're going to go down to our adjustments. We're going to add an adjustment layer to this. So click on your adjustments layer, and we're going to be choosing brightness and contrast. Essentially, we are darkening this photo. So in the brightness slider, you're going to go towards the left, and really anywhere between -75 and -150 will work great. So I'm going to put in maybe somewhere in the middle, -100. All right, we don't want it to be so dark that you can't see it anymore, but that should work just great. All right. Let's go ahead and turn the sharp layer back on and have that selected. And we want to turn this sharp layer into a circle. So remember what we got going here. So we're going to turn this into a circle and keep it sharp. We'll then add a shadow later. So in order to change this layer into a circle, we are going to make a circle shape. So you have some shape tools on your toolbar, which you might see it at first as the rectangle. But if you click and hold, you will find the ellipse tool. This will create circles or ovals. Now we want to get a perfect circle and we want a nice large circle. So make sure before you click and drag that you hold down Shift on your keyboard and then go ahead and click and drag. We want the circle to be nice and big. All right, and then go ahead and let go of both Shift and your mouse. Don't worry about what color this circle is. Make adjustments to the size as needed, and then we're going to take the Move tool and just move this circle until it is perfectly centered. And you should notice that the guides give you a pink line. You basically want to see a cross, and that will make sure that that circle is perfectly in the center. Now we're not worried about the color because we're not using this as a color shape. We're just using this to make a selection. So now that we've got the circle shape that we want, we're going to hold Control on our keyboard. And on that layer, which is now called ellipse, we're going to click on the image icon. And notice now that we have a selection of that circle. Let's go ahead and make that ellipse invisible. Notice that the selection is still going. And click on the sharp layer. Once you have the sharp layer selected and the selection of the circle is still active, we're going to go down to the bottom of the layers panel and create a layer mask. Essentially, this should keep the part of that image, that layer, that we have selected there, and anything that is not in the selection, it will now become invisible. So now you can see that we are starting to see in the background the other layer that we have blurred and darkened. So our very last step now is to create a shadow on the edge of this sharp layer around this circle so that it stands out even more. To do that, we're going to right click on the layer and choose blending options. When you choose blending options, you get a whole window that looks like this, and we're going to select where it says drop shadow. All right, and you have actually a lot of options here with the drop shadow to adjust it, to have it go different directions, lighter, darker, as long as you can see the shadow. Go ahead and adjust to your liking and press OK. Once you've done this, you are completed with your project. So let's go ahead and save together. So whether done or not, you always want to make sure you're saving as a Photoshop file so that you can edit anytime you need to edit individual layers. So let's go to File, Save As. We're going to make sure that we save to our OneDrive. We want it to save on the cloud just in case anything happens to our devices. And we're going to name this your full name dash color wheel. Make sure that the type is still a Photoshop file and go ahead and click Save. Once that Photoshop file has saved, we are going to save again, this time as a JPEG. You only want to save as a JPEG once you are completely finished with the assignment. File, save a copy this time. All right, now save a copy. We still want to save it into our OneDrive, and we still want it to have the same name. I'm going to get rid of the word copy at the end. But this time we're going to change the type to JPEG. Remember that there are 3 JPEG options, so make sure to choose the first one and hit Save. In the JPEG option window, just make sure that the slider is all the way over to the right to give you the highest quality image possible, and press OK. When turning this into Teams, make sure that you turn in the JPEG version, not the Photoshop file. And you're all done.